Welcome back, everybody, to Catch a Zenith, the podcast about high performance and business. My name is Nicola, and I currently work in software sales. And today, I want to share a concept almost nobody talks about. Yet, it explains why some people succeed while others stay stuck. And it's the idea of pain transmutation. And it's helped me to stay consistent in the gym, in my diet, and in my work in sales. And if you learn it, it can change how fast you grow. So here's what we will cover today. Number 1, why pain drives almost everything you do. Number 2, why most people waste it. And number 3, how to turn it into fuel for success. Now first, let's start with talking about the nature of pain. So life comes with pain. But I don't mean the physical kind, so for instance migraine or a broken leg. I'm not talking about this kind of pain. I'm talking about psychological or mental pain. So I'll give you some examples. Financial pain, if you can't afford what you want, or status pain, if you don't feel accomplished enough, or control pain, you feel stuck under someone else's rules. And here's the truth, almost everything we do is about avoiding pain. And the famous neurologist Sigmund Freud, he figured this out a long time ago. He found we either move away from pain or toward pleasure. But pain is the stronger driver. And I'll give you an example. Imagine this. You've got 30 days to make $1 million. And if you do it, you and your family get an all expenses paid trip to a private island. Sounds nice, right? And I'm sure you will be to a certain degree motivated to do that. But now let's flip it. You've got 30 days to make $1 million. But this time, if you don't do it, someone you love won't survive a life-saving surgery. God forbid this will happen. I'm just making this to drive the point here home on this example. But now let's ask ourselves, what motivates us more? The first example, moving towards pleasure, or the second example, moving away from pain? Which version do you think makes you act faster? I would make the argument the second. So making the $1 million in 30 days to save someone else's life. We would be motivated we would do everything we can to bring up those $1 million in 30 days. And now you see a little bit, we are more willing to move away from pain than towards pleasure. It's not always true, but at least in, I would say, a lot of instances. And we are wired to move away from pain far quicker than we move towards pleasure. And that's why pain is the most powerful fuel we will ever have. Or at least that's what I think to a certain extent. Now let's talk about why we don't do what we know we should do. So here's a paradox. You already know what you need to do. For instance, if you work like me in sales, to make the cold calls on a daily basis, or go to the gym, or eat clean, or if you're an entrepreneur, build your product, build your business, do sales. So we know what we ought to do. We know what we should do, but we somehow don't do it sometimes. And it's not because you don't know how, it's because you're not enough or you're not in enough pain to act. And that's why Netflix wins, that's why scrolling in Instagram feels easier. But the problem isn't knowledge, it's avoidance. And that's quite interesting. Most people would be their own best coaches. They know what they need to do, but they just don't act. Overcoming this burden, or not this burden, this hurdle of acting, overcoming this can unlock so much potential if you just know how to avoid or slay the procrastination monster. Now let's talk about coping versus transmuting. So when pain shows up, most people numb it. So if there's pain, we maybe scroll, we watch Netflix. Some people drink alcohol, some people take drugs like weed, or they Others play video games, some people watch porn, some people scroll all day long on social media. But these things take the edge off. They never solve the actual problem. They are like painkillers for a brain tumor. The pain is there for a reason, and it's feedback from reality. And if you ignore it, it just stays. Now, what kind of alternative am I offering here? It's called transmutation or pain transmutation. You take the pain and you channel it into work. So instead of engaging or indulging in destructive behavior, you try to do something productive with that pain. And work is the most powerful coping mechanism, or at least one of the most powerful, because it's something productive. And because when you're working, two things happen. In the short term, you don't feel the pain in the moment, and long term, you actually solve the problem causing it, or the likelihood is there. I'm not saying that is always the case, but it can turn out like this. And by the way, that's why athletes, founders, and top performers often rise from dark places. They turn their suffering into fuel. Kind of an interesting one. A lot of people are strongly motivated, not necessarily by a positive force, but sometimes very much by dark forces or by not so nice things. It could be they had a bad life before and they never want to go back to that instance. Or I give you a personal example. When I was 19, I had a period in my life where I wasn't so organized, I wasn't so feeling good during that period. And one, I would say, motivator in my life to stay healthy, hit the gym, eat healthily, work productively, etc., is just knowing life is so much better as opposed to when I was 19 and not feeling so well. Just knowing this, that if I don't pay attention to certain things like eating healthy, working out, sleeping properly, working with a proper structure, with deep work and shallow work sessions, reading and doing stuff like that, and now it can also be worse. Life can be not so pleasurable. And just knowing that, that life can be worse is a very, very strong motivator to live a productive, healthy life in the moment. And I want to make here an important point as well. I'm not saying what I just said, like using work as a coping mechanism is super, super healthy. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is it's definitely healthier than drinking alcohol, scrolling, smoking weed, watching porn, using those, or video games, using those short-term things to suppress something. So, and I think also important is work is a very powerful tool because it's doing something productive. But also important is that goes hand in hand with that is processing and confronting yourself with what bugs you right now is just as important as doing something productive like work. But I just experienced that work is a very productive form of coping, and in combination with problem confrontation can be very, very helpful as opposed to engaging in bad behaviors. Because a lot of people just only talk about this perspective of working hard and using that as a coping mechanism, and to a certain degree I'm doing that here. But I'm also saying if there's something that bugs you, you have something you're avoiding, something that's on your mind constantly, also confront yourself with that. Write about it. I did it with reflecting a lot, talking out loud what I think. I did that on my commutes to work or back from work, actually. And that very much helped me. And to that day, I still do that. I do a pretty short reflection routine on a daily basis where I confront myself with one uncomfortable thing on a given day or something that bugs me and one thing I'm proud of. And I do that on my motorcycle, on my commute home. And this helps me to stay reflected and also confront right away if there's something I'm not very content about in my life. And then I'm not suppressing it or having it in the back of my mind, but I'm not very much tackling it. But at that moment when you start tackling it, the pain in the moment or pretty fast goes away. And if it's something bigger, you need to do that over and over again over a certain period. But if it's something smaller, if you confront it right away, you can move it out the way and you feel better because you talked about it or you wrote about it, how you want to do it. So all this to say that the core idea is transmutation. You take the pain and channel it into something productive like work or working out, the gym, something that makes your life better. And in combination with processing what's on your mind can be very powerful. Now, in the last part of this episode, I want to talk about how to practice pain transmutation, how to actually practice it. So here's how you can make it real. Number one, cut the numbing habits. So you remove the escapes like Netflix, junk food, games, booze. And without them, you will feel the raw pain, the actual pain, how it feels, just the true pain. And then the next step, very important, is you start linking the pain to action. Every time it hits, you train yourself. You open the laptop or you pick up the phone and do a cold call, like in my case, or you step into the gym. Give you a personal example. For me, if I feel anxious or frustrated, I try to avoid scrolling on Instagram or avoiding doing the actual work. Instead, I open HubSpot, which is a CRM program where we track all our contacts and potential customers, and I make cold calls. And within minutes, the energy is redirected and I feel back in control. And sometimes you don't need to feel good to get started, but you need to feel good. Or the point is, you don't need to feel good to get started, but when you get started, you start to feel good, and that's so powerful. Sometimes I feel terrible when I start, but then the first 5 minutes are gone or are out of the way, 10 minutes, 50 minutes, and then you start feeling well because you know you're making progress. And that's, by the way, a powerful way how to overcome procrastination. If you just start with 5 minutes and all of a sudden you're totally in the flow state, you have a proper deep work session and everything is easier. So that's number pain. And number 2, link pain to action. And number 3 is you burn it as fuel. So pain is energy. Treat it like wood on a fire. The more you have, the more power you can generate if you channel it. And why I'm saying that? Because sometimes I hear people only talking about the positive things, like you just need to believe in what you do and everything is positive, but we can use very much our dark forces or our pain to do something good on this planet, to do something productive. Because the intention of doing something can either be positive or it can be a dark intention. But if the outcome is something good and making the planet better, it doesn't really matter. In the end, your action, your behavior, the outcome matters and not what's on your mind. Or way few, I would say. There's some nuance to it, but to a certain degree, that's true, I would say. Now, as I said, is this the healthy strategy? Maybe not, but it's a lot better than drowning in distractions. And in my case, it works. So here's the bottom line. The next time you feel pain, stress, or self-doubt, or lack of progress, don't numb it. Don't scroll, don't game, don't drink. Instead, work. Work and see what happens. And, of course, process what's on your mind. Because pain transmutation is simple. You take the energy of your struggles and burn it into build the life you want. That's how we may succeed. And that's how you perhaps catch the zenith. All right, that's it for today. And as a thank you for tuning in, I spent 4 months putting together a list of 100 plus podcast episodes I think everybody should hear before they die, all from other shows, not mine. Spent quite a lot of time on that list, and inside you find my top 10 all-time favorites, plus my best picks on wealth, health, relationships, and productivity. Just click the link in the show notes below to download it for free. And you also get my newsletter so we can keep learning together. So thank you for tuning in and have a good week.